All right, does someone else want to do the intro this time?
Well, I just started the recording.
Welcome to Directed By, the podcast with Connor.
Will.
And Brody.
Yeah, we're really good at that.
Yeah.
And this is the second one. We are back after 2 weeks or so, and we will get as many out as possible if you're wondering. But if you're not wondering, you should be, because why don't you think of us?
We'll find you.
I think we will, but in a nice way. Maybe.
No.
All right. We're doing Wes Anderson movies. Directed By is a podcast where we just take a director and then look at his work and be like, hey, how do you do that shit? What kind of shit? Is it good shit? What kind of shit? And then now we're talking about
Like, what does this do?
Yep. All
When
right.
we press the buttons.
So this week we got some Grand Budapest Hotel, the Grand Budapest Hotel, with I know really only the exterior actors. Would that be the
Exterior?
maybe not exterior supporting
What do you
cast?
mean?
I only knew the supporting cast. I didn't know the word for a second.
You only knew the supporting cast? What are you
Yeah,
talking-
I don't know the actors. Is what I'm trying to say.
You don't know who Ralph Fiennes?
Nah, I don't remember his name. I haven't seen him in a lot of stuff.
What? He's been in everything. Man.
Like everything.
Well,
There's been a lot of things that
with
have been
Ralph Fiennes.
Like
I
Harry
don't know.
Potter? Was that him?
I think he was in that.
He was Voldemort,
He was
right?
in Bruges. Yeah.
Oh.
He's
I
been
mean,
fucking everything.
I've
dude.
seen him in things. I
Here,
just
okay,
don't know
no,
his
you
name.
know what? I'm gonna.
Should we pull up the IMDb?
No, I got it already open, man.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
smart.
I knew he was
Ralph
in Harry
Fiennes.
Potter.
Yeah.
Ralph
Okay,
Fiennes is in it?
listen.
Okay.
He's been in the Grand Budapest Hotel,
No.
The Constant Gardener,
No, that's not-
Schindler's List,
That's not what I wanted.
Harry Potter,
No, I
the
wanted-
Lego Movie.
I wanted
Fucking,
the cast of the Grand Budapest Hotel.
yeah, I know, but I'm
That's what
telling
got
you,
to.
I'm telling you how many fucking things he's
No,
been in, dude.
no.
That,
This is off to a
this
terrible
isn't-
start.
This is important stuff.
We
You
need
don't
to
know.
get
Ralph
this down.
Fiennes, I will remember till the day I die now.
Mr. Mustafa was Murray Abram.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
This week we're
Adrian
watching
Brody.
a different. Oh, okay.
Willem Dafoe, Jeff
Oh, okay, you were
Goldblum.
talking about the characters.
No,
I was like, Brody,
we're talking
that's
about the
cast.
cast, dude.
I get
You
it.
wanted to know the cast.
No, it's fine. I'm
Harvey
stupid.
Keitel.
Keitel, Harvey
I
Keitel.
mispronounced it. Jude Law was in it. Bill
Owen
Murray.
Owen Wilson.
Yeah, he was super minor.
He was just like, hey, there's Owen
Saoirse
Wilson. Didn't say
Saoirse Ronan.
anything.
Yeah.
What was that? The Mexico birthmark lady.
Yeah. All right. I think this is all pretty unimportant information at this point, though.
Yeah. So the plot. Hey, Brody, what happened in this movie?
All right. So there's this guy, and he runs
Wow,
a
that's
hotel.
a great start.
He runs a hotel, and basically, he's very hospitable, and he gets a lot of old ladies to fall in love with him. And then one of these old ladies that
Bones.
falls in love with him dies
Mm.
in a mysterious way. In her will,
has a
she
premonition.
leaves to him a very valuable painting, which is subsequently stolen by this concierge.
But
And
it was
this is the
technically
plot.
willed to him, though.
Well, it was willed to him, but it was stolen because the veracity of the document had not been verified.
Nice word.
Yeah.
Boy with apple.
We could not. They could not at the time of it being taken. It was not known whether or not it was a real will at
Right.
the time. So they stole a painting, and then he gets put in jail, and so on and so forth. It's just the stuff from that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's like the plot. Those are really the beats. He
Pretty
steals
much.
a painting, escapes jail, etc., etc.
Yeah, and it's the whole movie's kind of told in this fashion of it starts off in a I think it's like a cemetery or something, and this girl's walking through a cemetery, and then she sits on a bench, or maybe it's a park.
I don't know. I think it's actually got something to do with the hotel itself.
It
I mean, that's
might-
how I always. read it.
Oh,
Yeah.
No, I think the memorial.
100% it's the memorial for the hotel that
That's what
burned
I'm
down.
saying.
No,
the
I
one
feel
that-
like the memorial was for the writer.
No,
Oh, maybe you're right.
no, I
Who the
think
fuck knows, dude?
no. Okay, so
I'm not really sure. I didn't get a
in
good
the
look
end-
at the statue.
spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. In the end of the movie, there's a shot where it says, "In case of fire, do not use the elevator," and then he uses the elevator as the sign's like right next to him, and he's talking about shit. And then, since he said it was his last time, the writer said it was his last time in the room. That means that
I don't know if it got burned down.
I mean-
I think it got demolished.
Well, if it got demolished,
the
she's
same.
standing in
I think it's where it got demolished.
the memorial for
Yeah.
it, and it's
Oh.
And she's
right,
reading about it
about
in
the
it.
whole hotel
Oh.
in the memorial. So that's
I didn't
cool.
think of that.
I honestly didn't connect that until right now.
Huh.
But no, that's
Yeah.
dude. This guy's really good at telling stories.
Yeah, I
Like,
actually.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So
And the aspect ratios.
That's cool.
They
But I
got
think
different
I think
aspect
the way
ratios.
this one was told was really interesting too,
Mhm.
because it was like there's
His Inception
two
storytelling.
narrators. So there's like Inception.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's about a girl reading a book written by a man who's reading,
Something in the past.
who's telling a story that's also secondhand. So basically, this author gets the story. Jude Law gets the story from Mustafa, who's the owner, and
Well, Jude Law, who is also
he's
the
the
guy,
young writer. There's
the,
no name.
the
for
young
character.
version of the writer from
the beginning.
Yeah.
But he's just called writer. He's
Right.
young Jude Law's character.
yeah.
And he tells the story in the book about how this guy came to get it. And basically, I think it's kind of interesting because, you know, we talk a lot about how this movie had, like, a lot of the telltale signs of Wes Anderson. But I think it's
Every
even-
shot's perfect.
Yeah, well, it's super symmetrical and everything. But
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because it kind of gets into, like, how, like, I think Wes Anderson's a filmmaker out there who's definitely an auteur. Like, you definitely know it's him when you see his work.
Yeah.
And then so you have literally like kind of almost a meta like acknowledgement of like this story being told by an author.
Right.
So like there's some like acknowledgement here of like
He
the
definitely likes
sense that he
books.
authors his own movies.
Yeah.
You know, I think you know, the style and how it's written, how the story plays out, the kind of and then, you know, the
comical
cinematography
nature.
and everything as well, and then like sort of the playful nature of it's definitely like a storybook. But then the fact that it's also quite literally a book,
Right.
it kind of gets to the point of like a very unique perspective being presented by Wes Anderson in terms of how he tells a story, you know, visually and in terms of his writing. It's definitely, I think it's a story that really, like, the way it was told would only ever be told by Wes Anderson.
Right.
Like, with the whole thing. And, like, you can see it, like, the auteur thing, when, you know, it's, like, literally, Jude Law is literally, like, almost as if he's reading pages out of a book. He,
Yeah.
like, says he said after Mustafa talks and stuff like this. Like, you know, like, literally, like, oh, he said this. Like, he said that, you know, like, oh, and then we went to do this. And then it's, like, written like a novel or,
Yeah.
like, an account. Like, so I think that's kind of an interesting...
Because she's reading it too. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
probably
So
why
we're
it's-
literally hearing it
yeah.
through, like,
He's literally reading his own book, and that's like her thoughts. Like she basically just read the whole movie.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
that's the
so it's
whole
like
idea of it.
it's like an audience.
That's
we're
cool.
the audience to an
Right.
audience's audience.
And
like,
also, I was gonna say the fact that it's gone through so many different people that it could 100% just be one big thing of telephone and not be this grand of a story, but because it's gone through like several stages, I'm sure that there are accounts and like with the memorial and stuff,
well,
it was like a staple.
it's at the beginning. Like every story is
Right.
a story from somebody else.
But it's like that's the whole point, is that it's like this might have been what happened. This is what I was told. This is what it makes sense with what I know. So it's
Mhm.
like this is just his account, and all of that, or probably most of that is correct, but like some of that could have been just complete bullshit, and like he would have like, I mean, it's not like he would have known. He's just trying to do his best.
well,
as he
yeah. I
can.
mean, I think.
but
you're,
like as a human sort of thing.
But what I'm saying is, I think it's like understood to be an interpretation.
no,
so, like,
for sure.
It's not
I'm
like
just saying I
it's
like
not
that
like
point.
oh yeah, it's cool because it's like there's so many perspectives on it, but
Yeah.
really I think it's understood to be the perspective of Zero Mustafa.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's understood that like this is his view, this was his story, like this was
Because
his story.
the
to
writer's
relate.
been given pretty reliable
well, yeah, but it's like
nature to
it-
him.
you know, whether or not the source is true, it's at least consistent.
Right.
The story is like 100% filtered through him.
Right.
Um,
hmm
so like I think like the whole point is like
Well, it's
knowing-
not 100% filtered through him. It's probably like 95%.
Well, you know what I mean. Though.
I get it.
The story that he
Right.
is writing is literally the story of
Right.
them sitting there. He's not writing a story about Gustav,
Right.
but Gustav, like he just
Right.
happens to be part of Zero's story.
Right.
The story that's in question is actually how did Gustava,
How did Zero
Mustafa?
acquire- No, how did Zero acquire
Well, Zero
the hotel?
Mustafa. the same
Well,
person.
that I forgot.
It's Zero Mustafa.
I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
This-
Mustafa, like, how did he acquire the hotel? That's the story
Right.
in question. So it's really his perspective on how it was given to him.
Yeah.
Like everything else is kind of like that whole journey is like ancillary to like the thing that's really in conflict is how did he come to get this hotel?
Yeah, that's
It's
like the
not-
big question that
Yeah.
like the concierge in the beginning asked, and like basically
Like
what,
their
the first time you
relationship.
got into the hotel, it was like there's just this weird guy sitting here. Who's this weird guy? And then the concierge is like, oh, he owns this place and sleeps in a closet.
Well, he
And
sleeps in a closet because that's
Right.
where he worked when
And-
Gustav still was there.
and fucking Jude Law was in the beginning telling how a writer looks at the world. It's basically because he went to the hotel because he had, what was it? Like, we pointed it out, it was like script fever or something.
Scribes fever.
Yeah,
or
like
something
scribes
that.
fever, and it's basically just like, he couldn't
Writer's
figure
block.
out anything, writer's
Yeah.
block. So he had to fucking go to a hotel, and he meets this guy. That seems pretty interesting. And then so on and so forth. The movie is basically created through that. Like, because if he never went to that hotel, that story would have never been given to him, and so on and so forth. So, Will, you're relatively quiet. I want your ideas or opinions on characters in this.
Was
'Cause-
Gustav like the OG owner?
I don't think it's ever
No,
gone
because
into.
he's the concierge. There
Then
was
how did he hand it off to Mustafa?
Well,
she
no, I
was
think
the
he
owner.
was like
The lady
yeah,
in the beginning
maybe. I
might
think
have been the owner.
yeah.
Oh,
I think the lady in the beginning was the owner.
Really?
And she gave him the thing in her second will.
Yeah.
In the murder will.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's cool too, because there was the like letter that was put behind the painting.
Yeah.
That was a cool like, what's that? And then you're told that later on, or you figure it out.
I
But-
like how it wouldn't have even
Yeah.
mattered if they'd found that letter like earlier or not,
Right.
because they had to like go through everything they went through to actually find out like who did it.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, it's and the fucking Adrian Brody and the whole Willem Dafoe murder squad. That was crazy. There's a lot of
Yeah.
Nazi imagery in this.
One of the things I
Uh-huh.
liked about Willem Dafoe, or his character at least, whenever he got put on screen, like it was always like the color was super dark, or
Mhm.
like
The lighting was super stylized. Like it's a lot of shadows and stuff.
yeah, it was always super dark, a lot of shadows, like dark blues, stuff like that.
When he's
just
on
to,
that
like,
bike.
Yeah,
all that shit.
just like match his character, like to make it show like while everything else is like bright and quick and witty, like he's very like solemn and dark and like
Yeah, there's a lot of like
murderous.
I don't know. I don't
Force of
think it's
nature.
necessarily Nazi imagery. I think it's just villain imagery.
Well, and that's
Because like the
I
dark.
guess
But
they
just
kind
black-
of
the
go one and the
times.
same.
but with
well,
the
yeah,
times
I mean
that he
it's
set it in and
supposed to
everything.
be like a mimicry of that, but
Yeah.
I think that it's just
Yeah.
it's all like Adrian Brody's got like his fucking hair up like Frankenstein and shit. Like
Yeah.
he's like it's like
He wears black literally.
yeah, he
like a
wears like
mad
black.
scientist.
Yeah,
All
it's like
black.
it's just villainous imagery,
Yeah.
like more generally. And then Nazis
Well, like a
are
spoiled
typically the
son.
fucking villains,
Right.
Mhm.
So like it just happens to
And
be
it's-
analogous there. Like but
Yeah.
like the real like thing is just like typical like kind of storybook villain.
Yeah,
stuff.
and honestly,
like,
the Nazis were only really a problem in the end of the movie when
the Nazis, they're called
well,
the Zigzag Clan.
the
I think it
Zigzag
pertained- yeah.
Clan.
Because that was I'm pretty sure they had
That's
something to do with
such
the
a
family or whatever.
How do you make Nazis silly? They're fucking call them zigzags. Yeah, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
take any of those people seriously.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And then Edward Norton is like, no one's German. Everyone's supposed to be German in this movie.
Well, no, I
and
like that some of
they
them are
just
and
speak-
some of them aren't. Like,
Yeah.
I like how like the accents.
Willem
like,
Dafoe speaks it. In
Yeah.
German accent.
yeah,
he-
like if
he was
you
the only
had an
one.
accent,
Yeah.
like oh go for it, but then also like or don't.
Oh, hey, Edward Norton, can you be in
Yeah,
this?
like Captain
Can-
Henkels is
can
just
you-
he sounds like fucking American History X, dude. Like
What
he
are you
sounds like
talking
fucking
about?
straight up.
Have you been here this whole time?
Yeah,
And it's
Edward
like, you're
Norton.
supposed to be from the Luftwaffe? Whatever it's called, Luftwaffe? I don't know how
No,
to fucking speak.
That's
That's
historically
planes.
that was the
Those are planes,
yeah,
right?
that was the Air Force.
Yeah, I'm smart. I'm real smart. I know
the
what I'm talking about.
Luftwaffe.
See,
But
I
The
just
infantry
hear
was the
things.
Wehrmacht, but I think what he was actually like a mimicry of was like the early like what's it called the Weimar Republic kind of militia.
I know
army.
nothing about what
Because
you're saying.
the Lutz militia, that's what he was part of.
The
He
Lu-
wasn't
yeah.
part of like the actual. So he predated like the ascension
Hmm.
of the.
Well,
you
he
know-
was the police.
He was the original.
No, I
Nazis.
understand that. But what I'm saying is like,
The
do you know
OG Nazis.
do you know about
Yeah.
like the yeah like literally like do you know like the tan shirts
Nope.
like those people that would patrol the streets of Germany.
Fucking tannies.
Well, yeah, no, but they would like they had like these
Tanner.
all tan outfits. They were like
Danny
they were like the military police, but they were really like a militia, like a right-wing
Right.
militia that would
Huh.
like fucking force people to vote and shit.
Damn.
That's
right.
what he was. And then by the time it was Zigzag Clan, like that's like the
The
fucking
SS,
That was
SS.
yeah.
right.
That's like the like when they like at the end of the movie when it's all black. and
There's
I
a
mean,
power
not that
vacuum.
this is like at all relevant to
Well,
what
the
we're
black
talking
and white.
about.
No, the black and
But
white. Was
I
a
mean
big,
specifically the black uniform, like SS
Right.
stuff. It's the kind the historical reference is not super.
But I think that was supposed to reference the movies of like the 40s and the 50s, because the lighting and everything, it looked very like noir. Like, I mean, it was the end of the movie, and it's like how he died was basically like that. That's how.
Well, I think it was supposed to be like the world was like changing, you know. So like it was less colorful.
But
now
that's like Schindler's List sort of style.
Yeah, but that's
it's supposed to reference that sort of. I feel like.
Well, I feel like anything black and white kind of references classic movies, but then you have there specifically like a very colorful movie go black and white.
Right.
Coincidentally, when the SS show up and kill him, like I think it's more like.
Well, it's definitely you can have your hand in both baskets.
You got to think though, you definitely can, but like
hands.
Literally the next like line.
You have one hand and two baskets.
The next line is like
cut it open.
There was still a bastion of civilization in this world, and it like died with him or whatever. Like it was like literally symbolic and thematic of like him
the
being
loss
a
of color
holdover.
in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So like it was literally like thematically implying like a changed world from the world that Gustav was trying to hold on to. So like it was when he died, there was something like lost with him, and I think that's more so what I was trying to think. But then I do think like anything that's like black and white on a train in World War II is definitely like an homage in some form or another.
Yeah, and it's the 4:3. You got the 4:3 aspect ratio through the whole.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Like because that's all the 30s.
Yeah, that's definitely.
So I think they're just using the frame size that was prominent
the time.
at the time.
Yeah.
Oh,
that would actually make a lot of sense.
I just thought of something.
What's that?
Since the story that was being told, like from Mustafa the entire time was like from his perspective, when it turned black and white, that could be like his feeling of like emotions, like everything else had color, but that moment where he lost Gustav is like black and white.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I think that's like a really good way to look
hope.
at it, because like he's literally like to him he was the last, like that's insane.
To him there's like no color that day.
Yeah.
Well, and he lost his wife
later on.
Literally 2 years after the fucking marriage that they had after the whole scenario that they got out of. So, and then that wasn't even like a big thing. That was like an illness that she had that was curable now, but not at the time.
Yeah.
So it's almost like he just kind of has to accept his like place in the world. Like he had only control in the times that he was with Gustava or Gustavo, whatever his name is. And then from there, like the world kind of shook him around. So then his wife dies, and he owns so much shit because he inherited it from Gustava, but he doesn't have anyone to share it with. So he's just kind of hanging out in this hotel. And he's like, "Hey, do you wanna?
Well, he only goes
want me
there
to tell you my story
for a week a year."
Well, right.
But
this writer's there, and he's like, "Hey."
Yeah, no, it's like it's
Can
an
we
interesting
talk?
story. But like he talks about it like being because they shared a vocation and stuff like that. Like I don't know that it's like necessarily like he doesn't have control. I think
Well, what is he? Who does he have?
Well, it's not like he doesn't have anyone, but it doesn't mean he doesn't have any control over anything.
I feel like that's the thing with a lot of old people. Like once you get to an age where like your spouse like passes away or something like that, usually a lot of people are just left alone, and they like have all these stories to hang on to. And I felt like his was another situation where it was just like a probably dying man like wanting to tell his story to someone. Right. What better than a writer that he admired?
Well, he was a fan of the writer, so he knew he was there, and I couldn't. There's no real coincidence.
But that's why I'm like, he's like.
Right, I just don't know
lonely.
that it's like. Yeah,
I feel like
he's lonely. Yeah,
I'm sure he's lonely. I'm sure he's not doing too hot, and then he just happens to be at the hotel when the writer's at the hotel, when the writer has writer's block, and then he's like, "Hey, you want to hear what I have to say?" And then he's like, "Oh, that might be a perfect opportunity." And it's like the stars aligning for the.
Well, the writer talks about it being fate, and I think like that's like it's deliberate dig at the fact that it's not really fate. Like but it's kind of, but it's like organized, right? Like so, like he showed,
isn't life just organized fate?
No, I mean that. No, I'm saying it was organized. Like I'm saying it was planned by. You literally just said like the author, like or not the author, pardon. You literally like the guy, fucking Mustafa.
Mustafa. I don't know what his name
Mustafa.
is.
You're saying like he
like
planned everything out, right? Like it wasn't a coincidence.
No, I didn't say he planned everything out. I said
you're saying he happens to show up there that same day. Like are you saying it is or isn't a coincidence?
It just happens to be what it is. I mean, it could be a coincidence, or he could know that the writer's checking in at that very moment.
Yeah, but he's like an admirer of the writer too, and everything like that.
But I don't know.
And,
I think he would stalk
But
him.
like, how do you know that he's like outreaching him? Like, how do you then infer that he's like actually wanting to tell his story?
Well, because
then like if
he knows he's
fate,
a writer,
but
and he knows he has a story, and he's like, "Do you want a story?" And then the writer's like, "Yeah, I'll take a story." Like it's like very polite. Like
right, but do you understand how it's kind of like you can't have it both ways? Like it's either like he decided to deliberately seek out this writer, or he ran into the writer. Like he didn't like.
Well, he could have run into him and then decided
like,
to
for
seek him
him
out.
to like have like some strange desire to like tell his story. Like you'd have to like assume that he wanted the writer to like run into him. Like he
I mean, he
planned
was
it.
in the bath with him.
But like it just like so it either was chance and then he told his story, but like I don't know. It just seems like it wasn't a huge giant but like that's what I'm saying.
I just don't think he knew that the writer was checking into the hotel at the
Well,
same
he is the
week.
owner.
Well, I think that's kind of like irrelevant. Like
Well, I mean,
it doesn't
that's-
really
He is
matter.
the owner,
yeah.
and like he could just like check like, oh, who's
if he,
coming
if
this
he
week?
admires the writer too. It
Yeah.
just
Who's
seems a little
coming
weird.
this week?
Yeah, who's
It
coming
seems
over?
it seems a little weird that he, you know what I mean? I mean, this is all kind of like irrelevant.
It's all semantics.
Yeah, it's
because
very like small compared
it's
to
a
like,
vehicle
the theme.
for the story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that had to happen for the story to happen.
But
Mhm.
It's not
I
super
think
important.
overall, this was a very, very good movie,
Yeah.
and
Me
I
too.
liked it a lot.
I like
I've watched it a long time ago, but I liked it better now. Continue.
at the end I saw a lot of parallels with Moonrise Kingdom in this
Oh,
movie.
for sure.
Like the whole thing after the kids get found out in their like little island area, or not island, like grove, and when Gustav gets arrested, it had like a very similar kind of feeling as the rest of the story carried out.
Hmm.
Like
That was definitely the inciting.
Do you mean like
Like-
aesthetically or like in terms of the story itself? Like, do you mean like how it looked, like the vibe, or like do you mean generally?
I mean, the
like,
vibe kind of
It's
just
definitely
like how
comedic.
it
It was a
felt
comedic
like it
moment.
got carried on, like when the kids were in the church wearing like the animal masks when the storm was coming, and when Gustav and Zero were running through the house in like the cake bakers uniforms, like trying to get to this
right,
thing.
like the like kind of right, like like falling
kinda
action,
had, like, the
like
same
rising
pace.
action.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Which I think that gets at like Wes Anderson's kind of like
Yeah.
auteurism, like it's very much
Well,
emblematic of a
parallel
Wes
stories.
Anderson movie. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You
But I
definitely.
like that.
You
yeah.
can
It was,
see that.
it was very good.
But he's real good at movies, man. He's like, how do you do that? How do you fucking think of all that shit? Like literally, I mean, it was based on the written whatever.
Well, it's based on some
It's
of
based
his
on
writings. I'm not
something.
sure. I'm not familiar with
But
the writings.
still to be
so
able
I
to,
can't really
like-
speak to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to be able to visualize all that shit though, like every shot was like a dolly shot, or like there was
a
little
lot,
to no
There's
handheld.
always a lot of dolly and crane. With,
No, I don't think there's any handheld, literally in the whole movie.
Not that I know.
No,
of.
I
Like
don't
a-
think
Or
so.
not significant enough to matter.
Yeah, because in Moonrise Kingdom, even when like shit was going down, like it got handheld and kind of crazy.
But even then, Wes Anderson does not rely on handheld
No.
very often. It's
No,
a lot
but
of
it's-
dolly and crane and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And in this, literally every shot was composed to a T. So that's why I'm thinking like
Right, it was
You
perfectly
could-
symmetrical, and I think the 4:3 like aspect ratio
Mhm.
only helps that.
dude, I just made this connection. It's like a picture book. It's literally like you could flip through this movie
Yeah, no,
like
yeah.
a fucking picture book,
Yeah.
and it would be it would be a good book. So I mean,
Yeah, it's very
this dude's crazy.
yeah, it's very like composition based, like the way he tells his story.
It's legitimately if a guy that could make a career out of doing picture books, it decided to make movies and was really good at it and knew a bunch of famous people.
Oh,
That's Wes Anderson movies.
I love that ending scene with the writer and Mustafa, where the writer was like, "Well, what happened to Gustav?" And he was like, "Oh, they shot him that day." And
They didn't even
Blah,
show
blah,
it.
blah.
Right, yeah,
It was
dude.
just like, yeah, they just shot him.
Well, and dude, it got darker. It was
Yeah,
fucking
the
like I got
lighting.
chills,
I-
dude. They panned out and like
Yeah.
I
then you
loved
guys,
it. How they put like an overhead lighting shot on them to make like a circle around their table. It
Yep.
just felt like, as he said that, it just felt like they were alone, and that's how he must like feel all the
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. But and they bring out the Mendels just to put Agatha back into
Yeah,
it. The
I know.
same
I
cakes that
just
she
saw
used to
that.
send
The
that.
fucking
And they
symbolism.
bring it out, and it pans out right as the
Yeah.
cake's getting served, and it gets really fucking dark.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, what happened next?" And then he goes, "They shot him." Dude, I got
Yeah,
chills.
it's crazy.
That was a very like somber like moment in
Yeah.
like
This dude knows how to play with your
otherwise
emotions,
pretty
man.
like colorful and cheery movie. Like that. I think that's part of like Wes Anderson's style is like the inversion. Like there's like a permanent juxtaposition between like the colorful shit that's happening on screen and then the severity of the situation.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like it's super like pastel and like colorful, but at the same time, like even in Moonrise Kingdom, the dog dies, or like
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
like what's
There's
his
a
name?
fucking
Gunther.
lightning storm.
Yeah, but
like-
but like also like Gunther like gets killed in this one,
Yeah.
escaping.
Yep.
And like they're doing
Yeah,
this
they just
comedic
literally
stuff,
do a stabbing.
but like he keeps you on your
Yeah.
toes.
they
He-
had a comedic
Yeah.
shanking scene.
yeah, but like that's the thing. It's like
Like,
it keeps you on your toes like emotionally
Yeah.
because your
Mhm.
characters are dying, but at the same time, like Willem Dafoe gets pushed off a cliff.
yeah.
But like,
That was
but at the
hilarious.
same time, it's like this colorful storybook kind of feel.
Mhm.
So there's always that like juxtaposition that I think it almost emphasizes both things a little more. Where it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's a serious situation that's really colorful. So like you get like the style of like how colorful it is, but at the same time, you're like the weight of the situation. You're going, oh shit, like this is kind of real. Like
Yeah.
they're
When he got the head in a basket,
yeah, that's what
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
saying. Like
that was like really glossed over. I feel
yeah,
like,
like, yeah, dude.
a whole severed head.
Yeah.
Like, dude, it's like super symmetrical and like it's like
Yeah.
they're building up at that point to tension, like, because you think Saoirse Ronan's character Agatha is dead.
Oh, yeah,
you
that's-
think
yeah.
that's it, and they're building up this tension, and then but it's still pretty colorful and it's still pretty like
And then
bright,
you're like-
and they pull
and
a
then you're like,
head out
oh,
of the
thank
basket.
God.
Yeah, I was
Thank
like-
God it was someone else's dead.
Thank God it
fuck.
wasn't her.
Thank God someone else was murdered.
But yeah, no,
I
I
just don't want
definitely,
that person to be murdered.
I definitely think
That's funny.
that kind of style, the Wes Anderson, it keeps like, because if it was all just like fucking butterflies and flowers and shit, like
Yeah.
you wouldn't really get invested in the same
Yeah.
way because there's no stakes to it.
Well, it's,
so like
yeah, it's
if
literally
people are
legitimately
dying.
like a storybook
Yeah.
sort of feel, but then like you throw the fucking like you throw guns in it, you throw swearing in it, you throw like just ridiculous characters.
Right,
Like,
and there are dark and gray moments.
Right.
Like you
it's
gotta
like he
keep-
he adds another layer to a storybook that normally isn't there because they're for children.
or in like good ones
Yeah.
are there. Like
Well,
in, like,
right.
in like good stories for
well,
children.
like the old what was it, Cinderella? Where,
like yeah, like shit like that.
like the old ones.
yeah, like old ones where like like
where like
would
people
die
had like
and,
the Black Plague and
yeah,
fucking
and
like
fucked up
sisters
shit
would
like
kill
that,
each
yeah.
other.
No, yeah, like
Yeah.
any good
All
like
the good
story.
ones, you know.
Like
Yeah.
The ones
no,
with murder.
The
but like
best.
good stories always have stakes to them.
Oh
you
yeah,
know? It's
Yeah.
not-
that's- yeah.
So like I think that like it's not just
I
you know,
completely agree with that.
like
though.
the
That's
style.
why like Tarantino movies are all like that.
Well, like Wes Anderson though, he doesn't like sacrifice any substance for style. So
No.
he has a very clear style, but like every moment, every scene, every frame, like there's still some like dramatic weight to it.
Yeah.
More so than just that's like because like a cool shot can only take you so far.
right.
Yeah.
When you put like a dramatic weight of like the characters,
Well, you gotta
and
have people invested.
you gotta have people
You gotta
invested.
give people an
yeah,
emotional
exactly.
attachment.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think like the juxtaposition there definitely helps. His style in particular
Right.
emphasized like both the serious and then the stylistic,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of all plays into like it's like two parts to like a whole. So even though they're opposites, they kind of make up.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Literally, a good storyteller is a movie that can give you literally every emotion, and that's why I like these movies and like Wes Anderson, like Christopher Nolan movies, same way Quentin Tarantino movies. That's literally why they're at the top for me.
Right.
So it's like, it takes you on a ride like that. Like a movie's supposed to be like, I'm happy sometimes, I'm sad sometimes, I'm scared sometimes, I'm angry at someone sometimes. Like it's supposed to give. It's the point. The point is to.
Yeah, I felt a lot of that.
Yeah, so it's legit. Like, he's really good with like color. I feel like color. Like he's probably unmatched in terms of like his film's color. Like if you look at a shot, you can basically tell if it's Wes Anderson or not based on the color and the composition.
Yeah,
110%.
for sure.
So I mean, there's really no other like. I mean, Tarantino kind of, but like even then, it's like.
No, I don't.
Like
think,
Wes Anderson
It's
is
not
so
as
far.
noticeable.
No, I still don't think that anybody uses color like he does.
No, it's
No,
crazy.
definitely
No,
not.
I think
No,
it
like-
is absolutely like.
Well, because Tarantino goes black and white sometimes, like a
But
Kill
that's
Bill,
not
he'll
the
like.
same way though.
No,
like, that's not,
I get what. That's what I'm saying. He's
his
like leagues
compositions
above
are
it,
like next level.
for
like,
sure.
He
He literally drew.
set
He
details.
drew every set.
Yeah, set
100%.
Set details, costumes. Quentin Tarantino, like maybe he goes black and white, but Quentin Tarantino.
That's why I said he was
is
leagues
not,
ahead.
Yeah,
I'm not
oh,
saying that.
no,
I'm saying the closest comparison that I could make would be, and then even like the John Wick movies, those are colored really, really well.
Yeah, but you can have a well-colored movie, but it's not necessarily like using color to tell a better story.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying, but that's why I'm saying
it would just be like increasing color, just like to increase it to like make it more bright.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
like
for,
it's
like,
like,
attention,
but that's like a thing where it's like
supposed to-
style over substance, right?
Right.
Like no offense to like a John Wick movie,
Hey,
but
John
it's not
Wick
sitting,
has a ton
they're
of
great.
substance.
Well, they're great action movies, but like you got to be honest, like they're not
Story-wise,
using like
I'm not going
symbolic
there for
like
the
colors. Like they're not like
Yeah.
like oh he's wearing a black suit. It's not because
No,
black
dude,
is
there's
symbolic.
neon everywhere
But,
in the
but
set. That's why he's wearing
Let me
a
finish
black
my
suit.
thought, man. Like
I'm
what
sorry.
I'm saying is he's wearing a black suit, and you go, "Oh, dude, it's all about death." Like, no, dude, he's wearing a black suit because fucking spies wear black suits,
And it looks
and he's
really
like
cool.
a fucking spy. Like
Look
that's
at
what he
it.
is. Like
No,
it's not. That's style just for
it's
the sake of
bad.
it,
It's
and like
bad.
neon. Yeah, exactly. It's like
It's
John
bad.
Wick's badass, and he's supposed
He
to
is.
kill everybody.
Right.
But like he's not like, why is his hair long? Like
I'm
it's like it's
literally.
Not
I'm not
meticulous.
saying that John Wick is comparable to these Wes Anderson movies in any way. All I'm saying is I really like the color of those movies, and I'm still saying that Wes Anderson
No, I
uses
agree.
color to a much more emotional extent. But I think that the closest people I can think of that are using color like that, like 90% of TV shows are just boring and flat. Like Breaking Bad's great.
Dude, a lot
A
of
Breaking
movies
Bad-
are boring and flat.
Yeah.
Though.
For
Like
sure.
a lot of them are.
But that's why I'm saying like a John Wick is visually stimulating just based on
yeah, 'cause
looking at
people
the
are
frames.
fucking dying all the time.
No, because there's you gotta rewatch those movies because the color and the composition
Right,
in the movie.
but like a
is
movie,
so
like
good.
I feel like the thing about like a good, well colored, like a lot of movies are well colored. It's
No.
just like
But it's not like it. I get what you're saying, but it's the point of the John Wick movies is supposed to be like, all right, where this story's pretty good, it's fine, whatever. We're just gonna pay as much attention as the action scenes and to the sets and to the costumes and to the choreography and to all this other stuff, so that it's an enjoyable ride and the story is like more or less the spine of it, and you're just kind of riding it along. Like, I'm not saying it's the most complex
No, I
roller
get it.
coaster,
I get
but
it.
it's really fast and
Yeah.
you'll enjoy yourself.
I think at this point we're rambling off a little too much. With Wes Anderson.
Ramble is my middle name. Wes
Um,
Anderson's a good at movies.
Final thoughts, anyone?
But what
Let me
time
say
are we
one.
at?
Let me say one last thing before that.
Continue.
After that scene where they like
get very
finish up the story and like Gustav gets shot and whatever, and they're like going through the hotel, it's like a very reminiscent scene, and it feels like I mean, it is the like book ending quotation marks, but like Wes Anderson could have like not turned the lights off like in the like main hallway, and it would have felt totally different. But when all the lights were off on the staircase and like only the lights in the seating area were on, and
Yeah.
like where all the keys were, and then the dude wasn't there,
Right.
it just
dying
felt
I
like
left you
room,
with
man.
the emptiness.
Charming
Like
little rune. That's
It-
what they said.
yeah.
Yeah.
It felt like everything was like wrapping up, and then Mustafa went like behind the counter and like got out the keys, probably for the last time for like his last customer.
Oh yeah, because
And-
it's been pretty much run down and like no one
Well,
stayed
at least
there.
regardless of if it was his last time, it was our last time with
Right.
it,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
the author's last time with it.
So
And
it's
since we're
basically
seeing
our
it's
last
like our
time.
last time, so like regardless, like that's kind of the symbolism I think they were going for, like the turning the lights off and everything like that. Like it was finally getting closed
A
out.
lot of
Yeah.
visual information through
Yeah.
lighting and composition. Like there was almost as much visual information as there was audio information, and that is crazy how you can do that
Yeah.
as a film. Like this, I want to know how much this movie cost. Can you pull that up real quick? 'Cause,
Yeah,
like-
I mean we're going pretty late.
No, I get you. What time are we at?
We're at about 35 minutes.
Dang.
Dude, we
That's fine.
that's fine. We
All
do
right, no,
40.
I know. Okay, no, I'm, just
That's
telling,
fine.
I'm letting you know, dude.
5
You're the one
minutes.
with the time, like yeah.
Yo, I got the hard drive space, my guy. It's all good.
Okay,
It's all
12 terabytes.
8 terabytes actually.
8.
But it's not a very fast transfer speed, so you gotta make compromises.
24 megabytes per second.
That would be unacceptable. I cannot.
That would be blasphemy.
This 1 gigabyte file
20
we done in 3 days.
$25 million budget.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's not
That's not a huge
unheard
amount.
of, especially with the
Well,
actors
dude,
in
I
this.
think it was a relatively short movie too,
That's
so like
true.
that helped.
Yeah, it
and
was an hour
to
30.
be honest, I mean the sets were pretty repetitive.
They reused. Yeah.
They reused the jowl for a large portion of the
Oh,
like,
train,
mid part of the
yeah.
movie,
Yeah.
the train.
Another thing,
Right.
even like though other movies, like when they use colors and like it's noticeable, they usually just like turn it up so it's like heightened and like more saturated.
Mm.
With like Wes Anderson movies, a lot of the time the colors are just like way darker, not
Just
necessarily saturated or like paler. And I think that's why his work is like so, what is the word?
Good.
Idiosyncratic.
That's a much better word than good.
Somewhere in between those two words is what I was looking for.
Idiosyncratic
yeah.
basically means like unique.
Yeah.
Telling of Wes Anderson.
It's more like, it's more telling of like his work.
Stylized.
Idiosyncratic would have been a good word to use.
Hey,
It's
you know what would
more
have been a good word to
idios-
use? Idiot. Brody's an idiot syncratic.
It's more idiosyncratically good.
Got him.
There we go, dude.
Idiot
Dude,
syncratic.
Will's just a crowd pleaser. He just gets them both together. He doesn't give a fuck.
You know I gotta do it.
All right, now I don't know how we
I'm
want to
per-
close it up. But like, do you want to do like ratings or something?
Yeah, final thoughts. You can
Final
do final
thoughts?
thoughts.
I mean, you guys can go ahead. I've said a lot. I probably spoke more than anybody. So
Hey, this is a good movie, and there's too many good shots in it for it to be any longer than an hour and a half, I'd say. Really, because like if this was like a 2.5 hour movie, this would have taken way too long.
I don't think the story
Just
was worth
like-
that long.
It felt really long too, but overall,
not in a bad way. I
no,
was
no,
invested
it felt
the
like
whole time.
like a slow burn.
Yeah,
Like it was like
yeah,
a good
yeah.
like, and it was a satisfying ending, and it actually
Yeah.
closed everything up, and it was like very like a masterful storytelling indeed. You can
Yeah.
really like tell how many times he's done this.
All right,
So Will,
I concur with what Connor just said, and I have to applaud the actors because that style of acting is fucking so hard to do.
yeah,
Excuse my French. But yeah, that whole style of acting, the dialogue, the speed, the pace, same thing I just said. Speed and pace.
yeah,
Pace and speed.
and quickness and
Quickness and stealth. But no.
and
all-
covertness.
And covertness and idiosyncrasies.
Idiosyncrasy. I think
All
that
the
was-
juicy.
Got it.
All the
That's
juicy
the one.
bits.
I'm smart. I'm smart, guys.
But no, I think overall this movie was fantastic. I'd probably give it 9.
yeah, I'd
9,
say like
9 feels good.
8.5, 9, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I was in between 8.5 and 9.
It was great. I wouldn't say it's like one of my favorite movies, but like I could
Yeah.
watch this movie every year and be like, wow, that's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Like
me
once
too.
a year would be a good watch for this. Brody, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd probably put it around like an 8.
Yeah.
For me,
It's
like
pretty good.
it's probably like up there as far as Wes Anderson goes for me. But Moonrise Kingdom is by far like one of my favorite movies, and like
Did
Yeah.
that hit you as a child?
comparatively, not really. I mean, I was a teenager when it came out.
Oh,
so.
okay.
But
I mean, you
in-
might have been impacted.
yeah, maybe. But like in any event, we're talking about Grand Budapest.
fine.
I think
I
like
don't really
I agree with what Billy said. Like I think the cast did really well. I think it was an example of like on every level, the movie was executed well. However you
Yeah.
feel about like the story, compositions were great, writing was great, acting was great. You know, every aspect, like from cinematography to the script. I think it was really well done. I think still there are Wes Anderson has movies that I would think are better, but it's definitely up there as far as his whole, I don't know what you call it, like his body of work.
Filmography.
Yeah, his whole filmography. At
I
this
know
point,
the words, man.
Yeah, there you go.
Just ask me.
Finally. Yeah. So as far as his filmography goes, I'd say I put it up there with
Yeah.
some of his best work, but not necessarily his best. So I give it like an 8 out of 10 if that's
Yeah.
the rating.
Long
system
way
we're doing
from
today.
Bottle Rocket.
Long way, definitely long way
legit,
from Bottle Rocket.
this
Like
was
Bottle
like-
Rocket was like okay, but
It's
like,
pretty good.
It was a 6 to this is 8.
Yeah, for
I would
sure.
say, and then I'd put probably Moonrise Kingdom at like a 10 for like
Yeah.
reference.
Bruce Willis is great in that. Bruce Willis is great in like every 5 movies. he's in.
Connor, we talked about Moonrise Kingdom last week.
I don't care. I'm
We'll
gonna bring
just
it up.
edit this bit out and put it in.
No.
We'll re-edit the
It's
other one
okay,
and then
guys.
re-upload
Bruce
It's
it.
Willis.
okay, guys. Nobody's gonna make it this far anyway.
Hey,
We're
Bruce
at 40
Willis.
minutes.
Hey,
If you made
People are
it,
gonna listen to this in like 2025. That's when
Yeah.
we're gonna go back in the archives.
There we go. Yeah, they'll
when
come
we're
back
on
out.
the space station X9 Apollo 12.
In 6 years.
Yeah.
Dude, in six,
In
yeah.
6 years.
In 6 years when we're all living in Mars.
Yeah.
In 6 years
It'll
when
be
we're
great.
all in the Andromeda Galaxy.
When the only cars
Nah,
available are Teslas.
dude, when humanity is gone and the
Yeah.
aliens come siphoning through fucking
that's the thing.
2025.
for all our technology.
We're the only
dude.
ones left. We're just
We're
re-listening
on
to
a
the
short.
podcast.
We're on a short fuse. These aliens are gonna come down here. This is gonna be like the last bastion of society.
We're in cryogenic slumber and they wake us up to make more podcasts.
Yeah,
The
right.
cryogenic slumber just has small speakers playing a continuous
They're like
loop
these
of
little
every
gray
episode.
men who want us to watch their movies, like Alien Cinema. They're like,
What'd you think of Xandor?
yeah, dude, dude. I
Did you
thought
like
he
that
was
part?
really great in that.
Xandor,
I-
4 out of 10, man. I'm
I
sorry.
didn't understand a single word he said, but I felt
Yeah.
the emotion.
I think you should really put in subtitles. I think that'd be super helpful.
Your composition was impeccable, though. So
Yeah.
great job on
I
that.
feel like, yeah, I don't even need to understand, dude.
You
The
could-
visuals. it's too
Yeah.
strong.
So much visual information.
If you've listened this far, go to the coordinates. No, I was gonna try.
Meet me in the woods at 42 negative 7.
42 negative 7 east.
East. Yeah.
Just
That's
walk
actually
in
the
that
first
direction
compass.
until you find me.
Eventually, you
Six-
would, man. The world's a circle or whatever, or a sphere, whatever.
Go to the world's biggest
Eventually.
rock, walk 6 paces north. You'll find me under the bushes.
Yeah, just be careful of the ice wall.
Yeah. All right, we should end it.
If you
Yeah.
go
Before we
past
lose our
the
mind.
world's
All
largest
right.
Waffle House,
This
you've
has
gone too
been-
far.
This has been the second episode of Directed By, and
45-minute episode.
we are wrapping up.
Yeah, we're good. All right,
All right.
ready? I'm ready
Yeah.
to end this.
All right, later, guys.
Peace.
Peace.